Finally, we're back. In 2024, we're going to go over some recent happenings with us, talk about what we're expecting to see for the iPhone in 2024, what we expect and what we hope. Probably not the same thing, and go over how to handle very white or bright objects in photographs as we talk about our recent photos.
Hello, 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 everyone. Happy New Year. Well, I mean, I know we're halfway through January, but this is the first show of the 2024 year, and I'm Greg McMillan. And in case everybody forgot, it's been so long, and I'm joined by my good buddy who's finally thawed out, Dave Bonner. Hello,
Yeah.
David.
Hey, Greg. Almost thawed. Almost thawed.
Almost thawed.
Almost thawed. And since our last show, we have both been sick.
Oh man, that's an understatement.
We have both been sick, and we both obtained new for us vehicles.
Yes. So we kind of had some lows and highs.
Yes.
I didn't even see Christmas. I was completely sick. I had a virus, and it wasn't COVID or nothing like that. It was just a bad virus that just completely laid me out. Never got to see family. Never did nothing. And that was my holidays. So, but no, I'm completely better now, and I don't think you had it as bad as I did, by the
No.
sounds of what we were saying back and forth over that time.
No, I actually got sick on Christmas Eve.
Oh yeah.
And it was some kind of cough. I did multiple tests for COVID. It could be that it could be a couple things. One, I was sick with COVID, but it wasn't bad enough to register on the rapid test. It could be that. I could have had another respiratory disease because I actually had a fever this time.
Did you have a sore throat?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It was more in the chest. For me, it was a very chesty cough. To the point of I bruised my ribs coughing so much. Yeah. So it took 2 or 3 days. It took like a week after I was done with the initial cough to where, and I still have a cough now and then, like a lingering cough. It took like a week for the lingering cough not to hurt me.
Wow.
So I literally, I bruised my ribs coughing. It was like, so trying to sleep was kind of like if anyone's ever had like abdominal surgery, like a gallbladder or, something on that. It's something where they went in through your stomach. And they're like, hold a pillow because you're going to hurt for a while. Don't try to laugh. Don't try to talk too loud or do too much because you're going to be in pain. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with me, it was, I had a really sore throat and I thought it was strep throat. Ooh. And I went to the hospital. I think it was on the 22nd of December. I got tested. It was negative. That's good. But my sore throat kept getting worse and worse and worse. I spent Christmas morning in ER, and they just said it could be this, or this. And I looked up the symptoms, and it turned out to be RSV is the short term for it. It's a respiratory virus, and all the symptoms fit. So I'm thinking that's what it was. And the doctor said, "You're going to be sick for a while," and sent me on my merry little way.
Yeah, and since it's the virus, there's nothing they can really do to help you.
So,
which is the worst pit.
And then when I was feeling a little better, I went to the doctor and, got the usual blood tests and all that stuff, chest x-ray, everything else, and everything turned out to be fairly decent. So I'm pretty much back to my normal self now. And
that's good.
But I got to admit, so going into our first segment here, we're going to talk about what we would like to see, or what call it a wish list, call it a predictions, whatever. I've only got a couple for 2024, and I gotta admit, over those holidays, I really didn't think too much about photography, in the iPhone space or otherwise.
Yeah.
So
when you're sick, also.
Yeah. So my brain excuse me, my brain has been a little numb. Um, but I'll throw mine out there. Uh, I mean, so the first one is and I just sat here like 10 or 15 minutes before we jumped on the Zoom here and tried to think of, some things that I would hope to see in iPhoneography in 2024. Really not much. I mean, I'm sure that things will come to me over time, but right now, all I can think of is, one thing I'd like to see is I'd like to make a short film. So this is basically a personal one. I'd like to make a short film of some sort, whether it's, like a tour of my town or something. But I want to put together some kind of a short film and put this iPhone 15 Pro Max through its paces with that. And I'm talking like shooting in Apple Prolog or whatever, or Apple Log, doing the color correction and all that stuff, color grading. And so, that's not a real big deal. The other one is I got to thinking about the iPhone and I thought, well, you know what? Okay, I'd like to see a better zoom in the iPhone Pro and Pro Max next year or later this year, but I'm doubtful it will happen. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you because you wanted to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, because
Now, folks, before Dave goes on,
get comfy,
get a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It won't. I won't let him go too long. But I want you to picture him on his soapbox. Okay, go.
So, even though Apple is a large company, it still operates in small teams. Right now, Apple's main focus is the Vision Pro.
Yes, they go for pre-order on February 2nd in the US.
Exactly. So their big push is that. I mean, massive push will be that because I saw an ad during the NFL playoffs for Vision Pro. And I'm like, you're not going to sell many of them, but this is a flagship. This is like the iPhone 17 years ago. This is going to be, or if you think about cars, this is the Halo car or the Halo device that everyone goes, ooh and ah, but no one buys. So they're going to have to come out and put a lot of resources in terms of engineering towards that and manufacturing. Even though Apple does not manufacture anything they, sell pretty nothing. Actually, they manufacture nothing
under their own roof. No.
Right. But they developed the manufacturing techniques. So if you make something for Apple, a lot of times Apple will make the machines that make the products, and then you get those machines to run the machines for Apple. That's why a lot of people can't make things the same way Apple does. Why these, even though they're not really 3 nanometer chips, the 3 nanometer chip process, no one else can do that because Apple, there's not enough capacity to build the machines to build the product. And Apple took that all over. So knowing how Apple works like that, I don't think there's enough air in terms of capacity at Apple to do heavy engineering for the next iPhone. The rumor is it's going to be 1/4 inch bigger, 2 to 3 millimeters, maybe bigger. That's a minor change. With that, we could see the 5x zoom added to the Pro non-Max. We could even see a bump up to the Pro Max zoom. A little bit more room so you can stretch out the length there. Again, physics. Mm-hmm. And they've proven how they can do it and how they can make the 5x instead of using a straight periscope, using the prism.
Zoom. Yeah, the tetraprism.
Yeah, exactly. So that may be bumped up a little bit, but I don't see it being bumped up to match Samsung, the 10X.
Right.
And I don't see either of them going to the non-pros. So I think it's a combination of that. This is something we've talked about forever and ever. Not only the zoom, but do something with moon photography and astrophotography.
uh, Astro maybe, but I don't think Apple gives a rat's ass about the moon, to be honest with you.
I
Just
don't think
because
so
Samsung
either.
does it, I just
The
don't
thing
think
is,
they care.
it's still a pretty demonstration. It's still a demonstration that looks pretty. So I could see Apple doing for that reason only, you know.
I think they're
But
more I think they're more focused on, you know, getting flesh tones right, like
oh
skin
no, agreed,
tones.
agreed.
You know, they're
And
more,
that's harder actually, because
yeah.
it's not just a matter of getting, you know, and this is something that's a known issue because when the smart cameras and regular cameras, the DSLRs, they all had their own little, internal processing for skin tone,
Hmm.
because the engineers for a lot of those companies were based in the US and they were of a certain skin tone. They developed for that skin tone. So if you were darker, it didn't work for you. It's been improved over the years, but go back 5 years, 6 years, and you look at someone who's African American, Hispanic, basically non-Caucasian, it messes up their skin tone
Hmm.
because it wasn't the engineers didn't think, oh, we worked on this case here. We didn't think about, the rainbow of people who are out there. That has gotten better, but that's one thing that makes it kind of hard, is saying this person
Well,
with this cone should look like this.
yeah. And I mean, you got an infinite number of different lighting situations.
Again,
So,
it's so I think AI will help, and I don't know if it's going to be this year or next. For Apple's sake, it better be this year. And I'm just saying that because of not because of how people look at things, not reality, but what people think about it. I think there's going to be a lot more AI built into it, and things that'll be called AI that, like how Google and Samsung can have built in removal certain things.
mhm.
And I can see, like for photography, Apple using quote unquote AI to improve certain things or give it a certain look that it's what used to be called machine learning, which is now just rebranded AI. But given the, if you look, the explosion of AI happened starting really in October 2022. That's when the general explosion of AI happened
Mhm.
with ChatGPT 3.5, really, not even 4. So Apple was kind of caught flat footed there. It can't be flat footed this year. And it has to add AI not only to our friend that starts with the letter S, so I don't set anyone's devices off, but it has to be everywhere.
But you know what?
And
I hope it doesn't get that way, because it's taking uh it's taking the humanity out of the craft.
I can see it where it could be a true assistant
No,
in
I'm
terms
not talking
of.
about slow-mo. I call it
Oh, I know,
slow-mo.
no, 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 no. I'm talking assistant, as in you want to do something to a photo, and
Like this Google Pixel 8 Pro,
yeah,
you could not pay me to use one of those things because of all that. Like when Google announced that thing, that's all they talked about was the AI crap that it
mm-hmm.
does. And I mean, that's not to me, and call me a curmudgeon, but that to me is not photography. That's just playing around with AI crap. You know, like, take a picture. If you want to do photography, take a damn picture. That's what I think it should be. I mean, this whole AI thing is just,
But I'll say
yeah, I
this:
mean, it has its place. Don't get me
right,
wrong. AI
right,
has
and
its place. With ChatGPT, it can be very useful in certain
mhm.
things. And don't get me wrong, I'm not completely against it. But when it comes to a camera system, I don't think you need to throw all this AI crap in that Google did with the Pixel 8 Pro.
Well, I don't see Apple throwing as much in, but I would love it if, in terms of Apple editing, you could describe what you want to do to the photo, and it would do the edits that you would do. Nothing beyond, let's say, the built-in editing it can do. Okay,
Hmm.
but instead of you having to, you know, hunt and choose and pay, if you say something like, "Okay, make this photo look like a 1970 Polaroid," or give this photo a faded look, and it would use whatever presets or however, but you would describe it in a language, a simpler common language, a
Hmm.
straightforward language, and then it would do the computation behind the scene to do what you wanted to do.
I don't know. I think there might be way too many variables in that, because people will be asking for so many different things.
Well,
Um,
that's why you do the whole AI large language model big testing on it.
yeah.
Because like you can do the image generator inside of Bing AI. If you go to Bing, you go to image generator, you can say, I want this type of image and I want it to look like this. And you describe the image, you describe
Hmm.
how you want it to look, you describe this, you go into as much, and it spits out an image. And it follows those guidelines on it. I want this image. I want to have a yellow gradient background. I want to have it in silhouette. I want to have a light fade to it. I want to have a picture of this over here and this here and this here and this here. And it'll get you 90% of the way there.
And basically all that is digital art, um,
But
the
taking
easy
your,
way.
but right, right. So if you could do something, and let's say you had a photo and you're like, you notice one or two things off, or like, I want to make the colors pop. Make the colors pop. Okay, a little bit less of a pop. I don't want it that bright. If you could
And
describe
you
editing
you
in those terms,
and you would like that to happen?
I think that would help. Again, I'm not talking, when we talk about Apple going 80-80,
Yeah, or
80% of the time for
90/90, yeah.
90-90, I
Hmm.
think for 90% of the people, if you could tell them, take a photo, and instead of hitting the the magic button,
Hmm.
the magic wand button, you could say, hit that and describe how you want your photo to look, or describe the changes in words, and then letting the computer do it. I think for a lot of people, they would love that,
Yeah,
because
but
because
I
that
think
would
it
make it
takes.
easy. Oh, no. It takes away,
Well,
and I would
what
say
it does is
it's
it
not, and I
takes
would
the
say,
craft out of the photography, out of the edit, in my opinion.
yeah, but I'll say this. We're also talking about the 90% of the people who don't edit at all.
Yeah, so then would they even put
For
those
something like that, I
commands
think they
in?
would. I think if they could put it into simple language based, yes, I think they would.
Hmm.
Literally, we're going back to, um, not spell checker, because that's different. We're going back to when word processors first put grammar checker in.
Oh yeah.
And remember, the idea was it was going to scan your document and pick up any grammar issues, like commas,
Hmm.
or passive tense, or that was kind of the precursor to write something, throw it in chat GPT and say, make this more professional sounding. It would give you what you wrote, but tightened up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Something like that for photographs, you know, or, you know, do something, you could hit something, and you could get a verbal. So it would be based on slow-mo. You could just, and it would be, describe what you want us to do to this photo. Okay, can you fix the crop to be more on the 4 people in the center, straighten it out, and give more emphasis to the people in front? And then it would work on it, and it would make the minor. But I would love to see that. But that would be useful for people. Again, not the expert level, not the I want to play around and I want to see what I can do with editing the photos.
Yeah.
But for the 90% of the people, literally a lot of people, not I would say most people who listen to this podcast at least do a little bit of tweaking before they post or show their photo. Even if they don't go to Lightroom or Photomator or use like the 5 apps I use all at once. It's just a matter of, okay, I just want to hit the little, hit the little magic wand button. Okay, that fixes it. Or, oh yeah, it's a little bit, I'm just going to hit, okay, so I did that. Just a quick little edit. That's the people who watch this show or listen to this show. I'm talking about the people who don't, the people who ask us for help and say, how do I make my photos better? Boy, your photo turns out your photo turns out one way. Why don't mine look like that? Well, you got to put the extra effort into it. Oh, I don't want to do that. I could see Apple saying, "Hey, we've done the machine learning," and
Yeah. Well, I honestly doubt you'll see that this year. But I mean, hey, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what they've got up their sleeves.
That's the other difference is with the Apple chips and software. They're really tight because you could say, well, Apple's adding a new chip to this processor or a new chip to the system on a chip. You don't know what it does. All you know is there's a new chip being made. So they could add there's already a machine learning chip on their system on a chip. They could add additional chips that handle, the language model. They're already doing internal testing with slow-mo having an AI built in. They can put that
I hope they do something with it because that digital assistant is the stupidest I have ever tried to use.
Yeah. But I could see them if you add stuff on the chip and the software, there's no leaks.
Right.
There's no leaks because that's all internal. If you're getting new hardware like a new lens or a new size of, your case size, or you're doing it,
then the pipeline gets leaked.
Exactly. So, I mean, like I said, my prediction is we are going to see, because it's the hot thing, and I've heard they've been
working on some AI, with some AI stuff. So I mean, who knows? I guess we'll see. And that will be in June at WWDC.
Yep.
Obviously, because that's all software related.
Exactly.
They're if they've got something that they think is worth showing off, they'll show it. And even if they say it'll be available later in the fall, type of thing. But we'll see.
Oh yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to see in 2024?
I mean, like you said, the Zoom, yes, I don't think we're going to see major changes. I would like just a bump up. I don't know if bumping from 5 to 7 makes sense in terms of the mathematics, or if that would cause trouble also because there only would be a 1x, a kind of 2x zoom, which is still a crop, but it's a clean crop. But basically having a 1x lens and then a 7x lens and no lens in between. If that would, because like I said, even though you can do a 2x zoom and it's not a digital zoom, but it's still using less of the sensor to get the true 2x zoom.
Yeah.
Like where Samsung actually has the extra lenses. If Apple would come out and say, okay, this is a physical 0.5, 1, 3, 7. We're adding more lenses, which we know they aren't because the leaks of the cases would have been leaked already if they're adding a different lens.
Yeah, yeah.
So, that's the only problem with the more zoom, unless they can somehow improve the digital zoom, which I know it's physics,
Hmm.
or if
Yeah,
they could say we're going to make all of the lenses on the back equivalent to the 1x, because they're still not, with the light gathering and the speed, quite the same, you know. So if they could say we're improving our 5x and it's going to be just as good, just as quick, just as light gathering as the 1x, and the 0.5 is going to be the same, so it's going to be all the way around, they're going to be just as good no matter what. That would be a huge step if they could do that.
yeah, yeah. That would be cool. Well, we talked about so like the highs and lows of last year near the end of the year, and we had stated then that we're going to try to give some predictions and whatnot for this year, but
Mm-hmm.
um, it's really hard to do. Like, but
Oh
pretty
yeah.
much all you could do is say, I wish they would do this, I wish they would do that, and we threw a few points out there, and as time goes on, maybe we'll think of some more and touch on these again. But um, we'll get into the meat and potatoes of what this show is about too. Like one of the ideas that actually you come up with again. You're great at coming up with these, and that is in this show we're going to talk about how to take pictures of white or very very light colored
Mm-hmm.
subject matter, and the rest of the image doesn't matter. It's the subject that
Right.
matters. And then in another show somewhere down the road, not too far away, we'll talk about black or very, very dark subject matter where the rest of the image doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, go ahead and touch on how you thought about this real quick,
Sure.
and then what you could suggest for taking pictures of that kind of thing.
Sure. And actually, this is it's something that hit me because of what I purchased
Oh yeah.
in the last little bit. Is our new vehicle is white.
Okay,
Um,
so before you go
yeah,
on, Dave,
yeah.
let's mix this in with our recent photos then,
Okay.
because our recent photos all have to do with this very thing.
Yes.
So, folks, if you're listening on your iPhone, take a look at the screen and you'll be able to see Dave's new ride.
Yes. There we go.
And so this is basically going to be our recent photos. I guess that's what we'll call this segment. And then we're going to talk about how we shot
Mm-hmm.
these, um, because they're basically white or very near white things that we took
Right.
pictures of. So, all right. So definitely had to get that look at your phone thing in
Nope.
there. And if you
Nope.
don't have it on the phone, don't worry. Just go to the website.
Mm-hmm.
The post for this episode will have the images there too.
Oh, thanks, Rick. So, yeah, the first one here, and I'm going to use the Kia Canadian company pronunciation because I like it better. The Sportage.
Yes, that's what we call it.
Yeah, the Sportage, not the Sportage, the Sportage. It sounds fancier. And
Yeah.
this was literally in a parking lot, obviously. Bright sunny day, just taking a photo. No editing. So
Well, it turned out well.
it turned out good. The iPhone does a good job, but the problem is, and this kind of, I want to use this kind of highlight the issues. When you do something that is very, very light or white, you have high reflection. So you do have possible glare. And when the entire area is monochrome like this, now admittedly, the vehicle does have some, darker trim down below, and the grille is dark, and the headlights have a different shape to them, but like the hood and the side, they're pretty much all white.
Yeah.
So when you get all white like this, you lose the contour. It's hard to tell, it's hard to tell, is the hood flat? Is there
Yeah.
a bump to it? Isn't there a bump to it? Obviously, there's the normal curve going from the front to the back. It isn't just a flat hood, but
Hmm.
it's hard to tell. Okay, is there a bulge in it? Is there an indent? It's hard to tell because are you seeing the vehicle? Or are you seeing the reflection of the sky? Because you can actually see the reflection of the trees in the hood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's newish. It was new enough. It was only like 2 weeks old and it didn't snow yet. So now it's a lot easier to tell because it's covered in because it's got salt and snow on it.
Hmm.
But when it's new, it's like, okay, like, but this would be anything white. You lose depth, you lose the contour, you lose the 3D-ness. And unlike not necessarily black images, because like black dark images have the same, but if it's a medium color, like a medium gray, a red, a blue, a yellow, a darker yellow, I should say, you do have the contour because it isn't just blinding white at you. You can actually see the movement, where are the creases, where's this, and this is true more than just for cars, obviously. So if you have a white object like a white dog, if it's a tree, which I also have a picture of, or something else that's white, not only do you have problems with it getting blown out, just because it's the not the light balance, the exposure balance has issues with white. It's, again, something to think about when you're taking the photo, but you do have a color issue here, where if it's trying to take a picture of white, it may not turn out white because it'll mess with your light exposure. And even though there is a color adjustment to the built-in iPhone editing, there's not a true white balance exposure
Hmm.
like there is in Lightroom Mobile or Photomator, where you can say, use this picture picker, click on the screen, and that right there is your white for the
Yeah.
image,
Yeah.
and everything also will adjust. Which, if you take pictures of the snow, it'll have that blue tint to it that doesn't exist in your eye. So
Hmm.
you have to either, in that case, I would say don't use the built-in editing. If you have a blue tint or something like that, use one of the more advanced ones where you actually have a picker and you can say, okay, that bit right there, that is white. I remember that is white. That is pure white. Click that button and everything else will be adjusted.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the reasons I brought it up, was just knowing when you're trying to take a picture or something. And I've had problems when trying to take pictures of our dogs. Our poodle Charlie is white and cream colored, kind of
Hmm.
light yellow um poodle. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
Belle, being a Westie, part of being a Westie is they're white dogs.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
except for the nose, they are white. And if she's laying in the sun, it will, good luck trying to take a picture, because otherwise you're just going to get a glowing ball of white,
Yeah. Yeah.
because she is just, that white fur is just reflecting off of her,
Yeah.
similar to what's happening on the hood of the car.
So, so your point with this image is, um, don't expect pure white all the time when you're taking a
Right.
shot.
Exactly. And you may have to do editing to get that white that you see.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess, in doing that, you'd have to kind of be careful of the surroundings and make sure they don't
Mm-hmm.
go off too badly.
Exactly.
Um, but with white vehicles, there are different shades of white when you think about it. Like, I mean, I've seen like a pearl white that has a tinge of, you know, I don't want to say yellow, but just a tinge of something to it. But yours, it looks like it's like, Snow White. It looks like a real nice bright
Mm-hmm.
white color. Definitely. There's. Um, do you know what the color's called on it?
I'm gonna have to look it up because, like all colors for cars, um, they have their own weird way to call colors. I'm going to look it up here for a second.
Yeah.
But also, I would say this: if anyone goes to any of these big box um, stores for, oh, there we go, Snow White Pearl.
Oh, okay. So it is a pearl. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, Snow White Pearl. Um, yeah, so yeah, unfortunately, it's like there was white, various shades of gray,
Hmm.
um, a black, a red, which they call dawning red,
Yeah.
and a blue called Vesta blue, which we couldn't find anywhere.
Right.
Literally could not find anywhere. So yeah, so it's Snow White Pearl. But I
Yeah.
will also say when you were talking about what white is white, I would say go to any paint store or big box hardware store. Go to the paint aisle
Hmm.
and look at what is considered white and
Yeah.
the hundreds of shades of white.
Yeah.
And oh, this is from this manufacturer and they have these shades of white. Oh, I'm going to this manufacturer, this paint over here. Oh, they have their own different shades, but that white doesn't match with that white.
And the big thing too is, the light, the color temperature of the light that you're in when you're looking
Mm-hmm.
at it. Like if you're going to paint something in your house, and we're getting on tangents here, but if you're going to paint something in your house, you know what I do? I'll take a paint chip and I'll take it home
Mm-hmm.
so that it's under the light that's going to be in that room. And then I will
Well,
make my call on
that's
whether I'm going to use that color or not.
and to go on back to photography using the exact same thing. Watch out on your settings on your phone. Pull down on the upper right for your iPhone and make sure that you do not have night shift on your
Hmm.
phone. Because if
Yeah.
you have night shift on your phone, it will we got night shift and true tone
Yeah.
because that will change what is considered white. And if like I have true tone off, but if you turn it on, it looks at the
The
lights around
ambient
you, the
light in the
ambient light.
room. Yeah.
So you may get it to the way you like it on your phone. You post it on the web, but the monitor that most people are looking at on their computer, most of them are not true tone. True tone.
Right.
They're different. They're completely different specs. You
Oh
know.
yeah. Yeah.
So you may even look at it on your own. You're like, oh, I love the way this looks here, and I'm going to do my adjustment, and I'm going to fix this here. I'm going to get this here, and you post it, and you look at it on the computer, like that's not what I did.
But at the same time, though, Dave,
Mm-hmm.
you can turn True Tone off,
Well, that's what I was
and
saying. Be
the
careful.
iPhone, yeah, the iPhone color temperature of the screen or whatever
Mm-hmm.
will be one thing, and you can get it how you like it, but it's still the same thing. Somebody looking at it on their computer or on like a Samsung phone or an
Mm-hmm.
LG or whatever, it's not going to look the same everywhere. So what
Right.
I do is I have True Tone turned on my iPhone and on my iMac, and that to me it's very consistent across the board. And the real thing I like about True Tone is when I look at a picture, say on these lights in my room are like
Mm-hmm.
daylight lights or 5,000 degrees, whatever it is, that picture is going to look the same if I go out into the living room under a more warm light. Like that's what I like about True Tone is it'll adjust to
Mm-hmm.
the lighting in the room.
Right.
And you know,
But I also say if you,
hate to say it, but anybody else that's looking at it on their device, if it doesn't look the same as it does for me,
too
oh
bad for
well.
them. But that is something to think about as we're adjusting and trying to adjust for whites
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
because whites tend to be a little bit more picky
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
than other colors.
Yeah.
So that is just, when you're doing your editing, if you notice that something's, check your settings.
Mhm.
And, it's up to you. Again, like Greg said, it's up to you personally what you want to adjust for. But knowing the settings on your phone affect what white is. And it sounds weird. It sounds like a former president. It depends on your what your definition of white is, which should not be that hard to get the definition of white or red or blue, but it's really hard. And with white, the rest of the colors in an image mentally and the way sometimes the images go out, that white is your base, that white is your baseline of what the image
Mm-hmm.
should be. And it's kind of like the optical illusion. Oh, is this a gray background? Is this a light gray background, dark gray background? Well, the square is the same. It depends on what the image around it is.
Yeah,
White
yeah.
for a lot of people, white, because you know what white should be. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you look at the icons on your phone, messages is a white bottle, white bubble surrounded by green. Facebook is a white F surrounded by blue. Well, blue and green, there's different shades, but when you think white, you think, well, white is white. White is paper white. White is bright white. And
Well,
so,
white is
well, the way that people,
255 on all
right,
three channels
right.
of the RGB scale.
Exactly. So when you
Right.
do your image and you're correcting for white because your subject is white, that is unfortunately, if you're doing edits and you're doing more minute edits, that's just something to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something to keep in mind when that happens.
Yeah. So, so we'll go to my first one here.
Okay.
This one is a candle in like it's not very big. It's only about maybe, I don't know, 10 to 15 centimeters high. You can see it's like a very small candle in there. And it's not perfectly white, but it's really light. So, we said at the start of this whole thing that we're going to go talk about white or very, very light subject matter. And this just a couple of days ago, I was going around, I got to get some pictures for the show tonight. So I saw this on this shelf in our living room. And I thought, okay, so I went up, I put the phone up and I tried to get it all centered up real nice. And I used the ultra wide because I got really close to it. And I did adjust the exposure down a little bit. And but other than that, when I did the edit, I did a bit of saturation. I did not do any color shift, like with the color temperature or the tint. And it's not as white as your car is, Dave, but it's pretty light. But I think if I had just let the camera expose the way it was, there's some parts that would be overblown, like especially there's some reflective, from the window. There's some reflected parts are right around the top curve of the opening of the candle. And I think by bringing the exposure down a little bit, it emphasized the contours of the ceramic piece a little more,
Yeah.
a little better, I think.
Yeah. Agreed. And you can, because like you said, if you went pure white with the ceramic, you wouldn't see, you would lose all that. And that's
Yeah.
something to keep. And that also a lot of times is the difference between a decent photo and one that really pops.
Yeah.
Is the little details that you gotta have to look out for and make sure you keep in mind when you're doing your edits.
Yeah. And the other thing about shooting light colored things like this, I mean, the walls of the living room are, like you see in the background there. Okay, so this is on a shelf and there's another shelf above it. That's why there's a white
Okay.
you know, quote unquote ceiling
Mm-hmm.
above it. It's not really a ceiling, it's just another shelf above it. And it's sitting on like a dark red doily type of thing with another black piece of cloth on the shelf itself that it's sitting on. So there's all this dark stuff around it that will have some kind of uh, play on how the bright color actually appears. It's going to tint it a little bit with reflection. Just like you said earlier with the snow, you see a blue tint on the snow. Well, you'll see that on a clear, sunny day, right? The blue
Mhm.
sky reflects off the snow and the snow will look a little blue. You might not notice that by looking at it, but when you take a picture of it, that's when it shows up. It's kind of like blue hour. You take a photo of blue hour, you don't see the blue in the sky so much, but when you take it with a camera, wow, it really shows up. So, as far as a tip, you know, in taking light colored things like this, uh, sometimes you might need to dial the exposure down a little bit just so things don't get overblown and it may help bring out some of the detail in the contours and shapes.
Nope, very
Yeah. So which one did you want to do next?
sure. Let's do the snow shot.
Okay. And you know what? Funny thing about this, talking about AI, I was on the road when you sent me this, and I think it was when I was going to look at my vehicle. But anyway, um, when it came in, Shlomo announced that okay, so I saw, okay, Dave Podner sent a message. So I tapped
Mhm.
it on the screen on CarPlay. And then it doesn't show the image or nothing like that, but it said Dave Podner sent an image and it's railroad tracks with snow and buildings on the one side and surrounded by trees or something like that. It described the image. And believe it or not, as stupid as Shlomo is, it actually described it quite well. But I
Ooh.
digress. Go ahead.
So yeah, this was after one of our recent snows, and I just loved the way the it was enough snow to cover, but it wasn't a deep snow, and the railroad tracks were not covered.
Hmm.
The ties were covered, but not the tracks themselves. So you have the tracks looking. Um, Now I will say this: I did not use any software to replace the sky. That's what the sky looked like.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay. Maybe the editing caused a little bit of purple reddish that you really wouldn't see in the sky. If you look detail on the photo, you can see a
Hmm.
little bit of extra colors that probably aren't there. But the main edit I did was kind of basically because it's white, the snow is kind of the main object here.
Yeah.
Um, Getting that to be white. So I'm trying to see. I'm trying to remember was in terms of what software I used. Whether I used, let me go back to, I took that on January 6th and Lightroom Mobile. So I did use
Hmm.
Lightroom Mobile to do some adjusting and not only adjust the white balance, because in the original photo, the sky was much more overcast. I mean, you can see in the distance there are clouds there, but they were really hard to pick up on the original photo.
Right.
And the colors were much more muted, mainly because of, the overall, if you're going to describe the color, if you will, of the image, it's white because you have an overcast sky, you have a snow cover on the ground, and just little hints of red and green. Well, I was able to do some adjusted to make the red and the green pop a lot more. So that's in our, we're talking about pictures of something that's white. It can cause the rest of the image to get a little blah because of
Yeah.
the overwhelming white. So that's, again, it's editing. It's editing you can fix. I did shoot it in JPEG, so you don't even have to shoot it in RAW to make the correction.
Yeah.
Again, now one thing I've learned over the last year or two is these are active railroad tracks.
Oh.
I did not when I first moved here, I thought they were just old tracks. I didn't think they were
Hmm.
still in use.
Oh yeah.
And because I never saw a train go by. This is literally in the middle of town. you know.
Hmm.
And there's a walking trail just to the left of this photo.
Oh yeah.
On the other side of the little bushes, there's a walking trail that parallels the railroad track. Now, the only one who uses this are at one time there were passenger trains decades ago. They haven't been active in years. It is freight, and it goes, I think, a couple times a day,
Oh yeah.
and a couple. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. So I guess between the rush hour, so you won't. It's the light part of traffic. Um, so
Hmm.
again, just trying to deal with the issues that shooting a lot of white
Yeah. Yeah.
can cause, and ways to around it.
Yep. Well, there's a lot of good examples within this image with regards to photography in general, like leading lines and composition. Um, you know, it's a really cool shot, and um, I'm glad it's in color because um, you've got the green hedge along the edge there, and then up beyond that, you've got it almost looks like purple sand cherry bushes or something, but I'm not sure if that's, or maybe it's just shrubs of some sort. It's hard to say this time of year, of
Mm-hmm.
course, too. Um, but then, you've got the plants all along the left side of it too. So, there's just so many leading lines that go to a vanishing point. It's pretty cool. And I like the way this guy turned out with the edit, even though it's got that purple tinge
Mm-hmm.
around where the blue sky is poking through. It kind of gives it a bit of character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. My second one is my dog's feet. When she lays down, sometimes her back legs will be stretched out straight, but up near her body. So she's actually sometimes will rest her chin on them, and then her front leg just kind of overlapping with her paw turned back. Um, I was looking for white things to take a picture of, and she was on the chair. Yeah, actually, after my first shot, I turned around and I saw her there. Oh, okay, there's white. So I just pretty much held the phone straight up over top and took the shot. And with this one, I think I might have had to overexpose it just a little bit because it was getting on in the afternoon and there wasn't a whole lot of great light coming in because it was completely overcast. But as far as the edit goes, I just maybe I adjusted lighting aspects more than anything, and I shot these in the native camera app, all three of these that I've got tonight, and all the editing was done in the native photos app as well. And so all I did was I maybe brightened it up a little bit, uh, made a contrast adjustment. I used the one thing I did do that was not light related was the definition slider. I took that up a little bit because that kind of emphasizes the where light and dark meet in an image, I guess you could say. And I don't know that I even did a brilliance adjustment. I think it was just brightness, um, highlights, shadows, contrast. That's about it. But I just thought it was kind of cute the way she had her feet laying there, and uh, you know, she's soon going to be due for some grooming because it's getting kind of long, and she gets a little depressed when her hair gets long. I know that. So,
No.
but yeah, and because when she comes back from the spa, oh boy, she knows it. She knows she looks good. So, but anyway, yeah, that's her paws, and you know, it's white. It's something white.
Hmm.
So your next one.
Yep. Is of our Christmas tree.
Hmm.
And our cat, it looks like she was looking at the Christmas tree. She was looking, I don't know what she was looking at. Um, because she's a little ahead of it. But I just liked the way it looked like she was just kind of sitting there and she had like a little, you know, a little, let's see here, a little smile. I'm sorry, this is Leo. A little smile, the world famous Leo. A little smile on his
Oh yeah.
face, just sitting there and, just kind of looking up at the tree there. And because it is a white tree with white lights on it.
Hmm.
So that can cause some issues. Now, if you have an older iPhone, this would just be a white blob. Um,
Yeah.
Even though, and this again, this is just a normal shot, JPEG, not RAW, and it, I had to do some edits just to kind of bring down the extra white there. But I think it did a really good job with the fact you can see the individual um parts there of the tree,
Hmm.
and the
Yeah.
ornaments on the tree aren't getting overwhelmed by the white light.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Leo, who's like I said, he's an orange and white cat, and he's not being overwhelmed with the white light there either.
Yeah, that's right. You can still see lots of detail in the tree, like
Mm-hmm.
in the quote unquote pine needles that are on the branches. That they're
Right.
you can still see them. They're not all blended and melded together.
Exactly.
And I've seen enough cat videos while I was sick to know that Leo doesn't matter what he's looking at, but he's got something going on in his head there that could mean trouble.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, that's
He may
Leo
or may
too.
not have followed through on it, but you can't trust a
That is
cat.
true. Oh no, no, no. I luckily our cats are older.
Yeah.
That doesn't always mean everything, but they're older. Um, so they're not really interested in climbing the trees anymore.
Yeah, well, that's good.
In their younger days, yes. Not so much Leo, more Rosie was more of the climber that we found her halfway up the tree a couple times
Oh yeah.
in the middle. But
Is
she
is
rather
is that is that Rosie under the tree?
it
Right.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
We
thought
have a we
so.
have a hot air register behind the
Oh.
tree.
Oh
So
yeah.
she was sitting from the warm air.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just noticed that. And I thought, okay, that
Mm-hmm.
looks like her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's that. But I mean, like I said, but doing the white, and our walls are really light.
Yeah.
So, again, but notice though, the tree is a different the pine, like you said, the pine needles
Hmm.
on the tree
Yep.
are different white from the white lights, which are a different white from the walls, which is a
Hmm.
different light from the cat. So
Yeah.
we
Oh
have
yeah.
we have multiple. You can't just say white. You have
No, that's
to
right.
deal with what white you're looking for. And this is also where you can go from, well, white is white and we need to make white white, to maybe using a little artistic touch to get the right shade that you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, because in editing, I mean, you can move the tint slider and it'll change
Mm-hmm.
everything drastically with a just a slight nudge.
Right.
Um, but as far as the camera goes, I mean, it really did a good job at picking up
Yeah.
everything, and I'm suspecting that everything looks pretty true to life, in
Mm-hmm.
this shot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's cool. That's a great example right there of shooting white things and not worrying too much about the rest of it, because you got the sofa, you got the floor, you got the bookshelf, there's different things throughout the frame that are not white. And in all honesty, it doesn't really matter what they look like, because anybody but you will not know the true color of those things, right?
True.
But you got the tree looking in really nice, crisp white, compared to the walls and stuff like that. So, and the tree to me is the subject of the image.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Alrighty. So my third one is snow, because I live in Canada. So this is just through the front window with the 5X, the 120 millimeter camera, and it was, you know I did some shoveling and threw snow up in the bank and whatever. And there's it was overcast and it was windy, so the wind has blown some of the snow across the chunks of snow that I threw up from shoveling. And when I first shot this, it was kind of bland. Uh, Not a lot of detail this throughout the frame. So when I did the edit, I brought the whites up a little bit, or the highlights, and the contrast and the definition to try to bring some of the texture out in the snow itself.
Mhm.
And it kind of worked a little bit. Um, it's I don't think there's anything real special about the image, but my my purpose was to um, you know, okay, but so my purpose is to say this: when you're shooting snow on an overcast day, it's a good idea to overexpose it a bit, because if you don't, it's going to look gray.
Right.
Camera sensors try to expose things at an 18% gray. And that's basically what that snow looked like before I adjusted it. So, I mean, before I well, so I mean, I shot it a little overexposed. I wasn't happy with the way that turned out, so I took it. When I did the edit, I overexposed it a little more by brightening it up. Not so much
Mm.
with the exposure, but
Okay.
with the brighten slider and
Mm.
the highlights.
Okay.
So it's I guess it's a photographer's preference, I guess, when you're looking at snow like
Hmm.
this. But I just prefer it to be as white as I can. And in fact, when I was adjusting for the brightness and that, I kind of went overboard, but I had to dial it back a bit because there was things that were just actually getting blown out.
Mm.
I wanted
Okay.
to keep as much detail in the texture as I can. So, it's not pure white looking,
Right.
but it was getting on in the afternoon and being overcast and everything else. It just didn't look white. Plus, it was going through a double pane window too. That didn't help.
Oh, okay. Honestly, you couldn't tell that. You could not tell that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
honestly,
So
I could not tell it was going through a window.
yeah, I would have went outside to shoot it, but it was just too damn cold. Like right now, it's minus 11 Celsius.
Ooh.
But with the wind chill, I think it feels more like about a minus 20.
Oh.
It's pretty cold.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's our shooting white subject matter. And uh it can be tricky. We've talked about the different shades of white and how to deal with different lighting situations and things like that. So um there's kind of a lot of variables to be aware of, like with my first image, talking about the surroundings and how they could reflect onto the white and affect the color of it and that type of thing. um there's a lot to think about when you're shooting pure white things, or again, what's pure white, right? I mean, there's
Exactly.
so many shades of white. Like I'm looking on my desk here and I got my router from my internet supplier and it's white, and then I've got my Apple AirPort Extreme and it's white, but they
Hmm.
don't look the same. So I should have took a picture of them. But anyway, so yeah, shooting white things is a can be a little tricky, but can be fun too. Um, then maybe not the next show, but the one after, I think, is when we're going to do the black or very dark subject matter. So um, next show, we're hoping to have a guest on, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
And
hopefully he
it
can make it.
and it isn't a matter of we trust our guest, but we understand guests can be very busy.
Oh, sure.
So
Yeah.
things
Yeah, things
happen.
can happen. Life gets in the
Life
way.
happens. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I will say, at some point in the future, um, my good friend from Bulgaria who used to live just a couple of hours from me here, Don Komarechka, may
Mm.
very well come on the show. If you haven't heard of him, he is the snowflake guy.
Ah.
He's done a couple of macro books. I have both of them here. One of them is all about snowflakes and the way he does snowflakes. These are with his big camera, like his Canon, with a big macro lens and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool the way he does them.
Oh no, it
But
is
he
it
just
is
put,
really amazing what he
yeah,
does.
but he just put a post on Instagram of a macro shot that he did with his iPhone 15 Pro. And I'll
Oh.
put a link to that in the show notes. While you're looking at that image, go to his Instagram feed and you can see what he's done with the snowflakes and stuff. It's just amazing. But I reached out to him and said, "Hey, maybe you should come on the podcast and talk about this stuff." Now that he's shooting with an iPhone, and he says, "Yep, always love to talk about photography." So, sometime in the future, it may have to be um, at a different time that I can interview him because Bulgaria. I'm not sure
Mm.
what the time difference is, but so
Probably 5
hopefully,
hours ahead, 6 hours ahead, something like that.
yeah, I'm not sure. So
Yeah.
hopefully, Dave, I could set it up that you can actually make it. But if you can't because you're working or whatever, I'll throw the interview into a regular show type of thing. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to chatting with him. I haven't seen him since he left, since he moved to Bulgaria, and that was 2020 or 2019.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
his wife is from there, so
Ah,
you know, and
makes sense.
he's of Ukraine descent, so he's a little closer to home too. But yeah, he's a great guy, a really good guy, and smart as a whip. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. But well, I guess we got ourselves a show.
Mm-hmm.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Well, we'll tell everybody where they can find you.
Sure. You can find me pretty much everywhere. It's Prof Pod except for TikTok, where I'm Prof Pod PGH.
All righty, and you can find me on. Hang on, I got a cough here. One second.
Nope. Please hold. Do, do, do,
Yeah,
ba, do, 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 da, ba, do,
yeah.
do.
Insert that Jeopardy music here. Um, no, you can find me on Instagram at Macmillan Photo. Same with Threads. I'm still on X, and I'm not sure what to do with that yet. But that's Macmillan_photo. And the podcast lives at iPhoneography.ca, and I've actually just somehow been able to get back into the podcast Instagram page. So I'm gonna try to put a little more stuff on there, just to help promote the show and whatnot a little bit. And but yeah, those are the main places you can find me. And um, well, I guess that's about it. Well, thanks for the good conversation again, Dave. It's been too
Glad to
long.
be here. No, no,
Well,
agreed.
it's only been two shows, 4 weeks or whatever.
But
But
still,
it's
yeah.
it's good to be back. And you know, just this conversation started to get my photographic juices flowing a little bit. They were just gone over the holidays. So um,
And
it's
that can
good to be able
happen.
to.
That can
Oh yeah,
happen.
for sure.
Especially like you
So
said, you were sick too. So that
oh
messaged you up.
yeah, big time. But anyway, better and brighter days ahead.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. All right.
Hope
Well, I
that's the
guess we'll
same for
see you
everyone
all in the
else.
next. Eh?
Hopefully, same for everyone else out there. Better and
Oh
brighter.
yeah. Yeah. You know what, folks, if you were ill over the holidays or somebody in the family was, which I'm betting probably happened because there's so much stuff going on, so many things going around. Um, you know, we hope that you are getting better, and we hope that 2024 can be just as bright and cheery as it possibly can for everybody. And, you know, get out there and take some more photos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks everybody for playing along, and we'll see you in the next one.
Have a great one, everyone.